Hello, hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to In Conversations with R&B. This is episode 5,
Yes.
episode 2 of segment 2.
Yeah. And what is this segment about again?
We're doing time travel.
Ooh.
This is Rabreet.
And this is Bruno. And guess which movie are we going to talk about today? Christopher Nolan's
Interstellar.
There you go.
So,
Yes.
before we even begin and dive into the episode, comment down below what do you feel about Interstellar? How do you think it relates to psychology? What are your opinions on it? Personally, it's my favorite movie, so please don't come at me. Don't say anything bad about it because Mr. Nolan did a wonderful job on it.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite movies too. But like I said to you earlier, I didn't know that was actually Christopher Nolan's that was the director of this movie too. That I'm fascinated about, and we should be doing a segment on that as well, which is Inception, and it's my favorite movie of all time.
Foreshadow. Okay, let's dive right into it. My first question to you is, how is isolation and loneliness depicted through different characters in the movie?
Isolation and loneliness. How would you differ isolation and loneliness, though?
Well, isolation as in, do you want me to answer your question?
No. I'm just curious to know, like, how do you differentiate between loneliness and isolation?
Isolation is when you do something deliberately to put yourself away.
Okay.
In terms of exploration.
So your isolation mean like you isolate yourself, but then loneliness is not something that deliberately was you that put it out there.
Yes.
But it just happened to be the case.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it is that your definition of it, I would say that the loneliness part is when you see characters out in the movie where they went to different planets to try to find a way to survive there because they deliberately put themselves in that place. So like isolation per se. Now the loneliness part is, for example, I forgot that character's name, but Matt Damon portrays the guy there where
Dr. Man.
Yes. So he's at that planet. He isolated himself there, but at the same time he feel loneliness because the planet is fucked up. There is no data there to be collected. He faked everything so then he could be rescued for it. But I will also say that you can feel the loneliness from Matthew's character Cooper when he's out there into space. He has people around him, but he still feels lonely because his daughter is not there with him. And I think that's one of the central themes of the movie is that connection between him and his daughter, which is beautiful to see. And like I said to you also when we were watching the movie, is that although I don't have kids, but that's when I think about like, oh wow, if I had a daughter, I would definitely want to have like a relationship with her, like he has with Murph. Yeah, but so that's the loneliness part there that you can see in his character, which I think is the main character. Uh, you see also Dr. Brand when she's there, and then the loneliness that depicts on her is Not even for her dad though, but it's for the guy that she is in love.
Wolf Edmund.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then um, I forgot the name of that character, but the one that stays back at the
Rom.
space, yeah, and
Ask me about
spaceship,
characters. Don't
yeah.
I know all of them?
Well, that he stays back in the spaceship there, although he felt lonely because he spent like what 23 years there by himself with those few hours that they were down. It was hours or were minutes? I don't remember now.
Well, they were there for hours.
Yeah.
But then
for him was years. Yeah.
Because every tick was in 7 hours or so, or an hour on Earth. Oh, comment down below. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Comment down below what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, and if you're watching this, I'm sure you guys have watched the movie before, right? Or we're only gonna be just like doing spoiler alert all the time for you guys then, because Interstellar is a classic, so you should have watched this by now.
How does the film challenge our understanding of time and memory as a psychological aspect and not as a general what time and memory is?
Well, again, if we're talking about like how time is relative and how time runs for us, not in the movie per se, but for us. So we have past, present, future there, and we, let's say, I don't know how old you are there, and you have recollections of the past, and then you're looking forward to a future, and you think like, oh, maybe in 5 years I'm doing this, maybe in 5 years I'm married and I have kids, whatever it is the case. When the movie does shows how time is going linear there, but then once they go to space, it just jumps.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you do that jump, you have no recollection of a past, not the same past that the people on Earth was living. So, for example, his kids, all the past that they were living there, it's not part of his past because that past was never in his lifetime. He jumped in there. So then the memory that he would have is not in there. It's like, think about the other movie we watched, which is The Butterfly Effect. And when he does jump back and forth with his past and future and present, he is always getting new memories uploaded pretty much into his conscious. Now that doesn't happen with Cooper because he did time travel, but his memory didn't go with him. Like there's no memory to come along with it because only the other people that lived that that timeline, he didn't. So that's where it gets complicated to think about it and rationalize onto it. And maybe that's why we need to have a timeline and we need to have collections of our memory to make sense of where we are and where we are going. Especially if you think about like people that have diagnosis of Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
they start losing track of their memory and time. And look how that is complicated for a person to understand because if they don't remember their past, how are they able to function and understand why they are where they are and where they are going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's basically just challenging our perception of how time and memory correlate with one another. Because if you're not present in the moment of your, well, said in this context, we're talking how Cooper is not present in Murph's life for that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
She has no memory of him.
Yeah.
But that also does not mean that she does not have memory of him. She only has the things that she can remember from the childhood.
Yeah.
But from the moment that he's left to the moment that he comes back,
Mm-hmm.
years have passed. Years and years have passed. And within those years that have passed, what is her memory? Right? The only memory that Cooper has is the one that he's left behind.
Yeah.
Because he's jumping time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that, that knocks on the question, if we are time traveling, are we really doing justice to our memory? Which this one here just told me that we can, in time we will be able to travel in past. No, why would you can relive your memories, you can go back to your journals and go time travel.
I said joking about it. I didn't
Yeah,
say,
right.
I don't believe you
This
can
part is
actually.
not this part is not in the video, I know, but it's just,
Well, I don't believe that we can actually travel back in time.
yeah.
No, the only.
I keep teaching kids you can never go back, but you can go to tomorrow, which is true, because that's just how time has been taught to us.
Well, because tomorrow is always.
Foreseen.
No, tomorrow is always today. So it's
Well,
always
yesterday, tomorrow, and today, they all exist at the same
Yes.
time. And if we are talking about time travel, the way I think about time travel would be going from one end of the earth and then traveling to another. Well, not end, of course there's no end, but you know what I mean. Like coming from the east to the west or west to the east, we are traveling in time, right? Even though it is always in the now, you're always staying in the same date.
Interesting. You're talking about like traveling from one side to the other of the sphere of the globe.
Yes.
And I just remember one thing when I was a kid, though. Maybe it was not only me, maybe someone out there also had that idea. But I remember because we have time zones, right? In different places of the planet.
Yeah.
And then I always thought, like, okay, so if I'm on this time zone here, then people above me, let's say, is on a time zone difference of like 3 hours.
Wait. I gotta correct this. You know, time zones don't work this way, but work this way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's the teacher in her speaking. You see. Anyways,
work with it.
As the time zones goes from one side to the other.
Yeah.
I always thought like, well, if I'm on this time zone here, and then the person besides of that time zone, either left or right, doesn't matter, is 3 hours ahead of me, then would they know the results of the lottery before I do? Because then I can ask them, can you tell me the results so then I can play?
That's the same principle when people are like, yeah, when 9/11 happened, why did Australia not tell us?
Right? Yes,
it's all ahead, in the now.
They're ahead like hours, right? Like almost a day, I think. Yeah.
Well,
but that's what I remember. Like when I was a kid, I used to think like that. I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna be rich. I just need to call someone
who lives in a different time zone.
And they can tell me, yeah, the results of the lottery
But okay,
is this.
did your little child and you did not figure that out, that the lottery is only for this specific place and not the entire globe?
Yes, I got that later, but still.
He's just trying to say he was a dumb child. I'm sorry.
Oh
No, no,
wow.
no. Sorry.
Look at this. We got insults now in front of the camera. Huh? Hmm.
My bad.
Okay.
My bad.
Before you ask me any question though,
Yes.
I wanted to ask a few questions too. So let's go back and forth questions here.
Okay, fine. You asked two
Okay.
questions now.
All right. So why do you think Cooper's relationship with Murph is so central?
Because that's where the movie is based on. Also, love between the father and the daughter, and the same archetype that we talked about in our first segment, episode 2, Drac and Mavis.
Attachment.
Attachments. And all of that that is in between that. Like, how do we we can't put said feelings into words like that, because that gravity that they have between one another is so much more stronger than any other thing that is out there. Because even when he is out in the outer space, we see that he is longing to go back to his kids, he's longing to go back to Murph. And Murph, on the same end, yes, she holds on to her anger for long enough, but then she finally gives up and she reaches out saying, hey, I'm the same age that you were supposed to return at.
Yeah, he promised that to her.
Yeah, it's also the last scene of the movie where he comes back and she's old.
Almost like it pretty much in her deathbed.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, it was me, I was your ghost. And she's like, yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
I knew it.
It's
Yeah.
like, how did you know that I was gonna come back? It's like, yeah, because my father told me that he was gonna come back.
Yeah.
And that belief. And again, we also see that belief only solidify itself when she goes back into her childhood room when she is an adult, when Professor Brand had died, and she goes back into the room and she's like, okay, all these answers are there. And she's talking to the partner there, and he goes, oh, how do you know? He's like, oh, I just have this feeling that I need to go back there because that's where I got my first answer, that's where I'm going to get rest of the answers. On the same note, it's also the same moment that we see Cooper be in that tesseract and say, oh, yeah, Murph is going to be back. And he gives the code, like the Morse code through the watch. He's like, oh, how do you know she's going to see the watch? He's like, yeah, because I gave it to her.
Yeah.
Like, I gave the watch, and of course she's going to see it. And that's that belief, that's that solidification of love and attachment that they have that goes beyond gravitational pulls of the outer space.
Yeah.
So the love of father and a daughter has more gravitational pull than the outskirts of space.
And time.
And time. And memory. And all of that.
If you make a correlation of how, like, even after decades he's still longing for her to be with her and all, it pretty much like echoes a parent that is separated from their children either by divorce or, I don't know, distance. Maybe you know someone, or maybe you are that someone that had a parent that had to go to maybe a different state, province, different country to survive and have the means to care for you. I know I had something similar to that. So that's where I see like the not correlation, not the word correlation, but that's where I see like a comparison of how his distance between her and himself can be compared to a parent that is distant from the kids because of either divorce or because of the financial need.
But what about the relationship that Cooper and what is Tom? Tom?
Her brother?
Yeah. What do you have to say about the relationship of the father and the son?
Yeah, that's. I feel like. Here's one thing though, maybe you can tell me if you're a parent or not, but that's my opinion, that's my take on it. Parents like to say that they don't have their favorite child, but I do think that they do. Yes, I do think that they do have their favorite child. And I feel like for Cooper is Murph because she is most similar to him than his son is to himself.
But it's wait, to interject. I believe that the relationship between Cooper and Tom is just that of a father and son. Because remember in the first scene when he goes to school, when teachers are complaining, rewriting the history, we never landed on the moon, yada yada yada.
Oh yeah, that's a bullshitting move, but yes, go ahead.
Anyways, point being, of course he's taking a stand for Tom, saying, hey, my son is not even 15 and you're already ruling him out of college.
Yeah.
On the same hand, he goes back and he tells Tom, hey, so your school is telling me that you're going to be a father, you're going to be a farmer like me. And
although he becomes a father too, but continue on.
So there is that, and Tom has immense amount of respect for his dad and that immense amount of love, and that's why he's like, oh, I love what you do, right? Because for him, he wants to become like his father, right? Like that's the relationship between the father and the son, that the son wants to become the father, and that's why you see him become the father, be a farmer. Of course, we don't know that whether Tom likes it or not, but he does understand that this is what I have to do because this is how I have seen my father be. While the central idea of the movie is Murph and Cooper.
Yes.
Tom, we're not neglecting you, okay? Timothy Chalamet.
But
Chalamet.
Here's what I see with that relationship is that although he has a son and he has a daughter, which like I said, she's more like him than Tom is. And because of that, it's that idea where I think it is wrong too, where parents see their kids as an extension of themselves. And maybe I'm wrong to point that, but I feel like Cooper might see Murph as an extension of himself too. But although he doesn't project on her, he's like his dreams of becoming someone or doing something and expecting her to follow those dreams. But she basically, like you can see there, like there's even a little quote where he's like, we'll find a way, Murph, we always have. So
the part of belief comes in again.
Yeah.
Right? That faith in that relationship, the faith in love, the faith that my dad is going to be back, or Cooper's immense amount of love to save not just his family but humanity. Because we see in the movie that Professor Brand on his deathbed confesses that, you know, Cooper did not have to go, but he only went because of you, Murph. And Murph still does not understand what he means until the end, of course, but
yeah,
it's that father-daughter archetype theme that we see over and over again, because that love between a father and a daughter has more gravitational pull.
okay, since we're talking about like a relationship and love in there, my other question that I was going to ask you now, in relation to like going back to that quote that is very specific to this movie, where is love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. Now, my question is, can love really transcend time, or is that poetic license?
I don't think there's any poetry in that. It's direction.
What do you mean?
It's direction that if we do anything, we're gonna do it out of love. Because if we're not doing it out of love, then it has no quantum value. Because we see that throughout. Keeping aside Murph and Cooper, we see that with Dr. Brand, that she is, again, it's line from Dr. Brand, she wants to go and find Wolf. Sorry.
Yeah.
She wants to go and she wants to be there, even though she knows that he's probably dead, because the amount of time that has taken Wolf to get to Edmund's planet, his supplies are off. You know, he's discovered too many things, and he's just that patience. That idea comes back to when Dr. Brand says, "We love the people that have died," right? That knocks onto the door saying, "Oh, when people die, my belief is that they become collective consciousness. That's why we have that immense amount of love for the people who have passed away." We see we still have those people around us. It's even though they're not in front of us, even though we cannot perceive them with our naked eye, you can still feel the love of these people who have passed away inside your bones, inside your mind, inside your entire psyche, because those are the people who made you who you are, because those memories are so strong, those principles are so strong, that guidance is so strong that you go back and forth thinking, "Oh, I want this person back." But it's not the person that you want back, it's the feeling that you have with these people who have passed away and left nothing but memories for us. We hold on to that memory. We hold on to the time that have been spent together. And I think that is what love is, right? The yearning for another person.
Okay.
Right? So that collective consciousness when people pass away is the love that we hold for them. Carl Jung.
So, have you read the book by Viktor
Franklin?
Yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning?
Yeah.
Go read it. All the psych students from our class have read it.
Yes.
But
and you know how like the idea there, because how love is like that idea, that meaning that we found in love is a survival tool that can be used. So in the sense of like,
yes, I caught that.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like neurobiology also shows that your memory, the love based memories, sorry, can be activated, can activate rewards actually, even
Interesting.
decades later. So then, if that is the case, then there is something to say that yes, love can actually
Transcend
transcend time.
time.
Because, like you just said, if we love people that already died, and if we have that collective memory of those people, we still feel that love,
They're
though.
still alive.
Yeah.
Just because you've left your physical body does not mean that you've left. It goes back to the same, it goes back to first episode that we did on grief, right?
Yeah.
That while we are grieving people, while we think they've left us, they still have not left us. It's just the presence of them next to us we're missing.
Yeah,
But on the same hand, they're not dead because we keep them alive. We remember them. That's why remembrance is so important. That's why going back to your memories, going back and talking about the same people over and over again is important, because that reminds us that love exists even when the person
is no longer
longer there.
Yeah. And maybe that's why how love transcends time then.
There you go. How do different planets represent?
The emotions?
There you go. Made it easier. I had a longer question, but there. How do different planets? So if we start with we start with Miller's planet, where there's
Only water?
only water, and then we go to Dr. Mann's planet, which is the frozen cloud,
Frozen cloud. Okay.
and then we go to Edmund's planet, where, well, she finally breathes the air.
So what are the, like, if that is the case, so then there are 3 emotions in there.
Yeah.
Correct?
Well, it's your opinion. I got mine.
Okay. So if there are 3 emotions in there, what do you think are the 3 basic human emotions?
Hunger.
Hunger? You think hunger is an emotion? I think hunger is a survival instinct, but it's not an emotion.
3 basic emotions?
Yeah.
Joy, sadness, anger.
Okay. So then if those are the 3 basic ones that you can gather, you could say that anger would be,
Mann's planet.
yeah, because of the ice cold clouds. Just because if you, let's say, if we were to compare love and anger being on the same coin, love is warmth and anger
is also warmth.
Cold.
Well, what do you mean anger is cold? Do you feel cold when you're angry?
No, but what I mean by anger being cold is that anger brings you that, we were talking earlier, loneliness. And being lonely means that you have no warmth around you, that you have no love around you. And that's why you feel lonely. Because you can be by yourself and not feel lonely.
It's an art.
Because then you would feel loved, and then you would feel the warmth. That's what I think. That would be my opinion on it. So the anger would make you feel cold, but not because the weather is cold, but just because there is no love at that moment that makes you warm. That would be my take on it. You can tell me your part on that. So then we see sadness. I would point sadness as being the planet with just water, because sad, the opposite, you would say, of joy or happiness, but I would say more of joy.
Joy.
Yeah. So sadness, why the water would represent sadness? I feel like when I'm sad, at least, I usually cry. And your cry and my cry, the tears, I mean, they're salt. And then if you think about it, it's salt water in there. Wow, that's so profound. No. But,
Oh my goodness,
no.
what?
But the thing with sadness is it's just because, like, I would say that when you're angry, for example, when you have anger, and it usually, like, there's something that triggered you to become angry, and then, but there's always a point where you're gonna come down, and it's gonna go back to your, what we usually call in child and youth care is baseline. So there's a triggering, you go up, you get anger, there is a outburst, and then you come down, and then you're back down on baseline, and anger dissipates. With sadness, though, it can be a constant. That's why people go to periods of depression, for example. It's not a, like, it's not like the anger where you go and have an outburst and then you come down to baseline. But then, yes.
Sorry, but even for depression, right? Like when it's going down, like if we think about this as in human emotion graph, right? That behavioral window that we got, and we say depression is going down,
Yeah.
you gotta have that outburst here too if you want to go up, because until and unless you don't have that pitfall, you're gonna remain going down.
Yeah. Yes, but it's not that you won't have the outburst, but then where is the baseline of sadness?
It's the deep, deep parts of depression, and when you hit the rock bottom.
Is that the baseline?
Hey, it should be.
Okay. Because what I was getting at it was, if you think as like the planet full of water in there, and then there is the waves, right? So then the waves would be almost kind of like, what's the name of that disorder? Bipolar. You have the manic state, and you have depression.
Yeah. Yep.
So why sadness? Because it's a constant of water being there and then the waves coming and going
up and down, up and down,
yes.
Up and down.
So it's a constant, and and sadness can be a constant. It can go and not leave, and that's why people, like I said, get to the depression part, and unfortunately sometimes they end their lives because of it. They cannot get out of that constant. They cannot get out of that loop. So that's why I would say that is the sadness. Now the joy.
Before you go into joy,
Yeah.
Anybody who's suffering or is dealing with
Depression.
depression or bipolar or the dip down, okay? Because a lot of the times people still have those taboos about depression and mental illness. It's part of life, okay? You dip down and then you come up, you dip down and then you come up. But if you feel like you're unable to come up, go seek help. There is nothing wrong with seeking help. That's why there are people like him and I. Not certified, but you know exactly what I mean. For certification, just go to the professionals, okay? We can just yap it out with you guys.
Yeah.
We love yapping. That's why we're here.
And
moving on to Joy.
No, but I mean, sometimes people don't have the means to go to a therapist.
Yeah, so seek a friend.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with asking for help. And if you think they will not help you, then
you should find good friends, though. Toss them out. Find good ones. Find new ones. Okay, so then
Edmund's planet.
Going to the
Joy.
planet of joy. Now, I would say is where she can breathe the air there, right? Now, why would that be representation of joy? Maybe because
the life force is going inside of you, and that is the only breathing is the only way you can connect to your inner self, because that's the only thing that is in direct contact with the external world and the internal world.
Okay. I was going with a different line though.
Well, that's my line.
Yeah, I know. It's your line. And it's an interesting one.
That's why we do yoga and breath work.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about now, like of the yoga part and Pilates and all of that, and like meditation, for example, when you do breathing exercises.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that. But what I was getting at was actually the breathing, not like you were saying, like not connecting with the external and the internal. But for me, it was more like, if I can breathe, then I can relax. Then I'm not tense anymore. And if I'm not tense and I can relax, then I can feel. And then that's what joy would be, that feeling, that part of being able to feel.
On the same note, it's that sense that Anne Hathaway, Dr. Brand, gets when she lands and she breathes the air and she goes, the mission is successful because she's reached her destiny. She's got to where she needed to go. And it was only possible because she never stopped believing in the love that she had for Wolf.
Yeah, that is the meaning for sure.
I'm so smart.
Tell me about it. Okay, since you asked that question, I'll go for another one. What do you think the role of the poem "Do Not Go Gentle into That Light" play psychologically, though?
That's not the right line.
Do not go gentle
into that good night.
Into that good night. Sorry, my bad, guys.
And here we've done so many days of research and he cannot get the line right.
Tell me.
Do not go gentle into that good night.
Yes. How, like,
what that represents?
Yeah. What role does that represent psychologically, though?
Psychologically, it's just take it head on, man. Take it head on. Do not think twice about anything else that is coming to your way, because yes, you got to be gentle with yourself. However, the good night here represents that part of shadow self, which again, knocking on to Carl Jung's theory of human psyche, that your shadow is the inner part of you that has encompassed anima and animus, which is the masculine and feminine, is that, a lot of the times we confine ourselves into these dogmas and these boxes. Oh, I am a male, so I gotta be masculine. I'm a female, I gotta be feminine, and all of the other things. However, the shadow part tells us that it is a balance of both, right? So do not go gentle into good night. If I look at it through a psychological perspective, is that stop fearing the parts of you that tell you you're somebody else. Like, you have to go and reach out and sit with it and talk to it and have that self-reflection that, oh, if I am feminine, I am also masculine, and how are these traits going hand in hand? Because if you do not balance them out, then there is no alignment. Do not go gentle into that good night.
Yeah. It's basically what you said is the resilience.
Translator.
Yeah, basically what you said is the resilience that we build.
It is the resilience.
Yeah, and it's that idea, like in therapy they say like rage against the hopelessness. It's like, yes, head on, like if you don't go through this with like you said, head on to it, then you're not going to be able to find yourself.
And if you do not find yourself, how are you going to go to tomorrow?
Yeah, how are you going to travel through time?
We're not talking literal time travel, you guys.
We're talking about like living.
We're talking about living in the present so that your tomorrow seems a lot better. And you can only live in today if you've gotten past all your yesterdays. So stop dwelling and stop thinking too much about tomorrow. It's the now that you have to live in.
Yes. Do you have more questions?
No.
Are you done?
I am done.
I actually have more questions.
My last question was the planetary questions.
Okay. What do you think Interstellar say about humanity's need for exploration? What does that mean?
For exploration?
Yeah.
Well, because we do believe that, there is no ending. We, going back to death of a person and then them still being alive through our memories and, all of that exploration is how far we can go, because we have no idea where it ends.
Yeah, going above our own limits.
That's a better answer.
It's like like I'm I'm not an athlete, but I'm sure you probably know someone who is, or you might be one.
I'm sorry.
What?
I just made fun of you. Go ahead.
But those people who are athletes, they're always trying to go above and beyond of what they were the day before.
But isn't that what the whole point is? To be a better person each and every day.
Yeah. But then but that's what, like, I think Interstellar tries to represent the idea of, like, that need for exploration is that need to find to become more, and also to find somewhat of a meaning. Because I'm sure you probably have those questions of, like, where do we come from? Where are we going?
We come from mom, and we're going to mom. We're going to dad.
And what's our meaning? And I mean, what's the meaning of life, or
Well, we all
what's our purpose?
we all have our different purposes, and we're all searching for it.
Yeah.
And as explorers, it's that belief that we want to exceed our own limits. We want to go out and out and out. However, how far are we going out that we stop looking inside? Like, that idea of having external validation is great. It's amazing because that makes you feel like you're worth something. But what about the internal validation? What about authenticity, that you create your own self? We're so bound to what others say that we stop thinking about what we're saying to ourselves. So that idea of negative talk, oh, I'm stupid, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that. Why would you want to think about that? Why would you want to put yourself down like that? When you are in your mind, you want to be like, oh, I'm going to go out and I want to feel validated. I want to feel smart. I want to feel good about myself. Why are we not doing that for ourselves? Why are we not changing the narrative and saying, oh, I am smart, I am intelligent, I am worth it? Why are we looking for worth outside when all of that is already present within, inside of us?
I feel like the external validation that people look forward is because they are maybe afraid to look at inside of themselves and finding out
What they might find.
yeah, I don't know, maybe. I mean, I like think for a second. Do you feel like you have all the answers?
Yeah.
Because I don't
I'd like to believe that I do.
Yeah.
But then that only came with, again, it did not come with, but it keeps coming with doing that work every day, working towards it every day, and not just saying, oh, I know it. You only know it if you've done your enough work towards knowing it.
Yeah.
It just does not fall into your lap. People like to believe that it does for some people. No, it does not. It does not. Sorry, that was rage.
But yeah, no, I feel like because nobody has all the answers, then we're always looking for answers outside of us.
That's why therapists are there. Go seek help.
And then when you're looking for outside answers, then you look for outside answers for other things as well, such as what you were explaining right now.
What was I explaining right now? Go back, watch it again.
I don't know. It's not
thinking too much. Move on.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on.
We ended it there. That was a good one.
But let me ask you, you didn't actually say what was your idea of the feelings, the emotions, I mean, of the planets.
Because my idea of emotions? Where are we doing my ideas of emotions? Ask that again.
Okay,
Ask that again.
Going back to your question.
Yeah.
You asked me what the 3 planets represent as emotions.
Yes.
And then I gave my answer.
Yeah.
What is your answer to that question?
Well, the first one is... Okay. When we go onto this journey of exploration, whether it's exploring the space or whether it's exploring inside, And this goes back to going to therapy, right? The first time you go, you're gonna feel so much that you're gonna be like, why are you punishing me with all these things? Okay, like, why are you going back into my mind and bringing out the things that I have repressed for so long? That is the first Miller's Planet, when Dr. Brand just goes, oh, gravity is punishing because there's 130% of it and she's unable to get up, right? And that she being unable to get up is that representation of when we go the first day, we feel like we've just fallen down on the floor and nobody is here to pick us up, right? But then Tars comes in and then, helps Brand and, yada, yada, yada. We see that Tars is that representation of a friend who helps us get up, right? Or that help that we find from not just friends, but classmates, teachers, parents, right? All of them. That's the first part of therapy. And then we go to the second part where it's rage. You go for your second session, you come out and you're like, oh my God, I am so angry because what was that, right? And Dr. Mann is that representation of hopelessness, where he gets up and says, oh, pray you never have to see the face of another human being like that again. And you think, you're like, oh, but what? And then he goes on and on making these illusions about his planets that are not true, when he does not have a belief within himself. On the same part, that is the same time that Murphy's video comes up and she says, did you know that there was no plan B? Like, this is the only plan, like there was only plan A, right? And that enrages everybody in there. That's why we have that scene where, there's a fight. That's the only part of the movie I don't like. Okay, I skipped that part.
Between him and Matt Damon?
Yes. Matt and Matthew, why do you want to fight on camera? Stop it. So there's that rage that comes with second session of therapy. And then you go to the third session. And again, this first, second, third is not how it really goes. It can be in any order for anybody. You can, your first day might be just joy. Your second day might be, the part where you're unable to get up. It's the same way in bipolar we talked about. There is a manic and a depressive phase. And then we go to Edmund's planet, where belief is so strong that she breathes the air and she's able to take that external validation, right? She's able to, not just because she's spent so much time internally validating that belief of her that she has for love, that she has for Edmund. Jesus, words, please. So, and then we see her take that life force inside, and we see that, okay, external validation is now coming in because she went through all of that time working on the internal validation.
Now,
that is my answer.
If you watch all the way to here now, forget about what I said back then about those 3 planets, because it makes no sense. Her explanation is way better. And that's why a podcast is done by two and not only by one.
Thank you for tuning in. That'll be our outro. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below whatever new movies you would like us to talk about. This is Bruno. This is Rabri.
she got all the lines and I didn't say any shit. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Peace. Bye.
Bye.